Revealed, how a millionaire CEO spent 48 hours with his assistant and discovered love in the storm. The storm raged outside, its fury shaking the glass-walled skyscraper as if challenging the very foundations of Nathan Carter's polished world. At 38, the self-made millionaire CEO was the epitome of success, a whirlwind of power and wealth in the heart of New York City. But that night, with thunder cracking like a whip and rain hammering against the windows, the walls he had built around himself began to tremble. He was trapped. The lights flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness along with Nathan's perfectly curated facade. His assistant, Sarah Thompson, a spirited woman with deep-rooted values and a heart full of dreams, looked at him, her wide eyes reflecting the emergency lights that kicked in. She was the kind of person who reminded him of softer days, family dinners, laughter, and a childhood painted with hope. As they settled into their shared space, the usual boardroom banter transformed into something far more profound. "Did you ever wonder," Nathan began, his voice low and hesitant, "what it would have been like to live without this?" He gestured around at the sleek furniture, the digital screens, the shimmering skyline. "All of this pressure." Sarah, arms crossed, smiled faintly. "You mean, like when we didn't have to worry about bottom lines?" "Yeah, I do. It's a different kind of freedom." As the wind howled outside, creating a cacophony that echoed their own buried feelings, Nathan found himself drawn to her honesty. He shared stories long buried, tales of the anxiety he felt living up to expectations, of sleepless nights worrying he would never be enough for his family. Sarah listened, her expression softening as she let him peel back the layers. He revealed the burdens he carried, the sacrifices he made for success that often felt hollow. The storm outside intensified, and with it, their conversation rushed deeper, each word like a crack of thunder gathering energy. She told him about her mother's health struggles and the struggles she faced back home, about an endless cycle of working hard just to keep afloat. Nathan felt a stirring within that he hadn't sensed in years, a connection formed from shared insecurities rather than the power plays of the corporate world. Suddenly, the debate revealed itself within Nathan, the impending merger that promised greater fortune at the cost of community support, the very initiative his assistant's family desperately needed. A wave of guilt washed over him. He was no longer just a businessman, he was a man faced with a true dilemma. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Through the storm's chaos, Sarah caught his gaze, and in her warmth, he felt a home he hadn't known he was seeking. His heart raced as he wondered, could love exist outside the barriers of wealth? Just as they leaned closer, sharing a moment that felt like a spark in the darkness, the power flickered back on, illuminating the tension that hung heavy in the air. Reality came rushing back in, the glowing skyline lighting up the space between them. What would they choose when the storm cleared, duty or love? The walls between their worlds now felt paper thin, and as they stood on the edge of something new, Nathan realized his decision could change everything. Nathan blinked at the sudden brightness, the familiar hum of the city flooding back into his senses. The warmth of Sarah's presence lingered like an echo, but the reality of their lives intruded harshly. They were still in that glossy high-rise, surrounded by the cruel dichotomy of wealth and need. A tightness settled in his chest. He had work to do, decisions to make, but the moment felt too precious to break. Right, he stammered, feeling as if they had both just stepped away from an intense film scene and back into the stark light of day. "We should probably get back to it." "Of course," Sarah replied, her voice steadier now. But he could see the flicker of disappointment cross her face. They both knew that whatever just happened between them couldn't easily vanish in the face of corporate realities. A sudden ringing phone jolted Nathan from his thoughts. He glanced at his cell, irritation bubbling to the surface. The call was from the firm anxious to finalize aspects of the merger. He waved it off and took a deep breath. "I need a moment." Sarah crossed her arms and leaned back, watching him closely. "You're thinking about the merger. You know you don't have to rush these decisions." A part of him appreciated her insights, but the voice of the business world screamed louder. "It's all connected, Sarah. We secure the future of the company, we safeguard jobs, but at what cost?" She asked, challenging him. He hesitated, her words lingering like fog in his mind. "What if this merger helps secure jobs for more people? What if it puts us in a better position long term?" She shook her head gently. "But what about the community? All those families relying on your company as support? Are you willing to sacrifice them for profit? You can't ignore your values, Nathan." Her questions dug deep, festering like an open wound. They were parts of himself he had neglected for years, all for the sake of ambition. As he studied her earnest expression, Nathan felt the surge of anger rise within him. "It's not that simple, Sarah. Isn't it?" She challenged, stepping closer. "You have a chance to change lives. Not just bottom lines." This was uncharted territory. She was pushing him to confront a part of himself he had buried deep under glossy reports and bottom-line metrics. And there it was again, this feeling, warm and unfamiliar, locking eyes with her. The tension between them crackled in the air, impossible to ignore. "Maybe I could talk to the board and negotiate," he stumbled, unsure. "To find a compromise? That's what you really want?" She pressed. "Or is it what you feel you must do?" Nate's heart raced at the crossroads before him, duty bound to a lifeless machine or the promise of something meaningful. Something that was beginning to feel like hope. But the office still loomed large, a reminder of all that was at stake. Suddenly, the lights flickered again before succumbing to darkness. This time, the unexpected shift only amplified the tension between them. It was as if the universe was giving them one last chance to confront their feelings without the distractions of the outside world. He drew closer, their faces inches apart. "What if we?" The words hung heavy in the air, both knowing what lay beneath them but unsure if the plunge was worth it. Just then, an urgent knock on the door broke the moment. The distraction felt like a thunderclap, sending adrenaline through his veins. "Mr. Carter. Immediate updates on the merger are needed." A voice shouted from behind the door. Nathan pulled away reluctantly. Reality was knocking once more, and he was left wondering whether the spark between him and Sarah could survive the inevitable storm beyond those walls. With a heavy heart, he glanced back at her, the question hanging between them, hanging in the air like they had before. Was he ready to embrace the love slowly unfolding, or would he retreat behind the fortress he had built around himself? What would they both choose when they faced the chaos beyond? The answer would change everything, and more than just their own futures. Nathan's heart drummed in his chest as he turned away from Sarah's searching gaze, each thud echoing the urgency to step back into the fray. He opened the door, the flickering lights casting shadows on the busy office behind him. Outside, he was greeted by the frantic shapes of his colleagues, all buzzing with expectation. He had left them hanging for too long. "Mr. Carter, we need those numbers updated." Someone called, pushing past him. Yeah, I'm on it," he muttered, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. He couldn't shake the feeling of Sarah's presence behind him, the warmth where he craved connection. He moved to his desk, the sleek surface a stark reminder of the corporate world that suffocated him. As he began to organize the documents scattered across his workspace, he could hear snippets of conversation around him. Words like profit margins, shareholder meeting, and competition sailed through the air, suffocating the hope that had blossomed just moments before in the darkness with Sarah. A wave of frustration washed over him. How did he get pulled into this whirlwind of numbers and bottom lines? He caught sight of Sarah through the glass, her expression reflecting a mix of determination and concern. Nathan's resolve strengthened, fueled by her unwavering belief in something greater than profit. He glanced at the clock. Time was not on his side. The board meeting was only an hour away, and he still hadn't communicated his thoughts on the merger effectively. What would he say? That he was touched by a fleeting moment with Sarah? That he wanted to care more about the workers than the balance sheet. Focus. He grumbled to himself, trying to drown out the noise pulsating around him. But his mind kept drifting back to her, the way her eyes ignited when she challenged him, as if she could see right through him, igniting a spark of courage he hardly recognized. The door swung open again, and Mark, his right-hand man, entered with a stack of files. "Nathan, what is going on? You've been unusually absent. We need your leadership to finalize this deal." "Yeah, I know. He paused, collecting his thoughts. "I think there might be another way." Mark raised an eyebrow. "Another way? You mean to delay things? Look, this deal is essential. We can't afford to wait around for a maybe. It's not just about the numbers." Nathan snapped, surprising himself with the intensity of his frustration. "It's about the people behind those numbers." Mark looked taken aback. "The people? Come on, Nathan. This is business. It's about securing our future. You know that. Is it, though?" Nathan countered, enflamed by a new awareness. "What about their futures? If we go through with this, what is it actually going to change? We'll just become another faceless corporation. I don't want that." Mark's eyes narrowed, disappointment creeping in, but Nathan found that his words rang true. He thought of Sarah and the lives intertwined with their decision, and how every decision mattered more than he ever acknowledged. "You're better than this," Mark said, disappointment evident. Don't let what?" Nathan interrupted, anger mixed with something sharper, fear. "Don't let feelings get in the way of numbers. Or don't let the chance to lead and inspire slip away." Mark opened his mouth to say something, but Nathan turned back abruptly, pacing now as he felt himself spiraling into the predicament before him. He knew he had to ground himself before the meeting, before the weight of the world pressed down on his shoulders. Then he spotted Sarah standing in the doorway. The tension between them felt magnetic, drawing him in. The world beyond fell silent as their eyes locked. Suddenly, everything else felt trivial in the shadow of what they shared. "What are you going to do?" she whispered, vulnerability spilling from her voice like the first light of dawn. He opened his mouth, but words failed him. Instead, he took a step toward her, hopeful yet unsure. The question loomed, heavy with promise and uncertainty. "Will you support me?" he finally asked, crossing the chasm between them. He felt like he was standing at the precipice ready to leap into the unknown. As the moment stretched, Nathan could feel that everything hinged on this choice, the kind of choice that could change the trajectory of their lives forever. Would they leap together? Or pull back and retreat into safety? He held his breath, waiting for her answer, knowing whatever came next would be the catalyst that shifted everything: job, passion, and heart. Sarah's eyes shimmered with an intensity that made Nathan's heart race. In that brief silence, the office noise melted away, leaving just the two of them standing at the edge of something big, something terrifying. "I've always believed in your ability to lead," she said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper yet clear as day. "But this isn't just about you being a good CEO. It's about doing what's right." Her words struck him, settling deep in his chest. Nathan had spent years chasing numbers, targets, and the next big success, but could he really change the course of this merger for the sake of people he barely knew? It was far too easy to lose sight of what mattered, he realized. "I don't want to make decisions that just benefit the shareholders," he said, looking into her steady gaze. "I want to build something that makes a difference, something that helps people." Sarah's expression softened, hope mingling with admiration. "Then do it. You have the power to make a real choice here, Nathan." In that moment, clarity washed over him. He felt the weight of the corporate world pulling at him, a relentless tide that threatened to drag him under, but here was Sarah, a lighthouse guiding him through the storm. Her unwavering belief in him breathed life back into his fading conviction. "What if they don't listen?" he asked, still searching for a reason, any reason, to back down. "Whether they listen or not doesn't make it less true," she replied, now moving closer. Leadership isn't about being right all the time. It's about standing by what you believe in. And I believe in you. He took a deep breath, his heart racing with possibility. Could he really do this? Leverage the merger not just for profit but for something far more meaningful. A spark ignited in him, growing with every moment they shared in that silence, but soon, reality crept back in as the distant sounds of footsteps and ringing phones began to break their bubble. Nathan turned slightly, feeling the pressure of the impending meeting pressing against him like an anvil. He had to decide soon. Okay, he said, determination flooding his voice. I'll make my case. I'll stand for the employees, for what's right. Sarah's face lit up, and he felt a rush of warmth envelop him. That's all I needed to hear. You can make a difference, Nathan. He nodded, anchoring that shared determination deep inside him. The board meeting was moments away, and he could barely contain the whirlwind of emotions stirring inside him. As he straightened his posture, ready to walk into the storm, Nathan turned to Sarah once more. Will you be there? I mean, support me through this? Every step of the way, Sarah promised, her words wrapping around him like a protective shield. He felt emboldened, like he was about to step onto the stage after a lifetime of rehearsals. With a final glance at her, he caught that blaze of hope in her eyes again. She believed in him. Nathan walked through the office doors, the world buzzing back into sharp focus. He could feel his colleagues' eyes on him, waiting, unsure of what to expect. He squared his shoulders and took a breath. He was ready to fight for something real. Then as he stepped into the conference room, he noticed Mark exchanging anxious glances with the executives. Nathan's pulse quickened. This was more than just a merger. It was a test of everything he believed in. As he approached the front, the anticipation thickened, every heart in the room was palpable. Nathan's voice shook slightly as he began speaking, channeling the hope and courage that Sarah had ignited within him. But just then, amidst the anxiety, an unexpected voice rose from the back of the room, challenging him directly. So, Mr. Carter, what's your real agenda here? Are we discussing profits or feelings? Nathan's heart pounded anew. That challenge could derail everything. But he stood tall, grounding himself in his truth as he prepared to respond. This was at the moment where his courage would be tested. What was he going to say? The breath caught in his throat, and he knew it was time to choose. Would the truth win out, or would he retreat into safety? Nathan took a moment, his mind racing. He could sense the tension in the room, every eye fixed on him with skepticism or curiosity. He looked around, seeing the faces of his colleagues and the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. Fear gripped him, but so did another feeling: resolve. He remembered Sarah, the warmth in her gaze, and her unwavering belief in him. It's simple, he began, his voice steadier than he felt. We're talking about people. Their lives, their families, their futures. I refuse to treat this like a mere negotiation over numbers on a spreadsheet. There's more at stake here than just profits. Mark's skepticism transformed into outright disdain. That sounds nice, but you know as well as I do that the board is more interested in the bottom line. If you can't bring the numbers to the table, your voice won't matter. Nathan clenched his fists, trying to draw strength from the fear that threatened to engulf him. Every employee, every family affected by this merger deserves a voice. Their concerns, their needs, those are just as important as shareholder dividends. We have the power to create a workplace that values people, not just profits. A murmur rippled through the room. Some eyes gleamed with newfound interest, while others narrowed in suspicion. Honestly, Nathan, another board member chimed in, a mix of disbelief and irritation in his voice, how do you propose we maintain our competitive edge while indulging in idealism? Goals without pragmatism may inspire, but they don't pay the bills. With every challenge, doubt threatened to seep back in, but Nathan held firm. I'm not suggesting we ignore the business. I'm saying we can integrate our ethical responsibilities into our profit model. Companies that value their workers see less turnover, increased productivity, and improved morale. That translates to both a healthier workplace and a healthier bottom line. He took a breath, the heat in the room feeling like a suffocating fog. If he was going to get through to them, he needed to be raw, vulnerable. I've seen the impact of a negative corporate culture. I've lived it. I watched my father lose everything because his company failed to care for its employees. I won't stand by and let that happen again. He could see the flicker of recognition in some of the board members' eyes. Maybe he wasn't alone in his beliefs. Maybe they felt somewhat the same way but had been too afraid to say it. Out of the corner of his eye, Nathan spotted Sarah standing just outside the room, her expression a mix of concern and encouragement. It ignited a fire within him. This isn't only about the merger. It's about redefining who we are as a company, transforming us from profit chasers to compassionate leaders. The room grew quiet, and Nathan swallowed hard, hoping that he hadn't gone too far. But something shifted. The atmosphere was electric with possibility. Just then, Mark broke the silence with a laugh edged with disbelief. Compassionate leaders? In this industry? What a fairy tale. But this time, Nathan pushed against the doubt. Fairy tales only become reality when someone believes enough to fight for them. The resonance of his words hung in the air, a moment suspended in time. Nathan's heart pounded as multiple eyes turned to Mark, awaiting his reply. Would he try to silence Nathan again, or had he misjudged the moment? As the tension hung, Nathan could feel something shifting in the air, a delicate balance of hope and skepticism. This was the moment of truth, and he was ready to embrace whatever came next. Yet before he could process the unfolding reactions, a sudden commotion erupted from outside the conference room. A loud crash followed, and the door burst open, revealing a frantic employee rushing in. Something's happened in the warehouse. The employee shouted, eyes wide with fear. All eyes turned to Nathan, the weight of the world crashing down on him once again. What had just started was now overshadowed by an urgent crisis. Could he rise to the occasion when it mattered the most? Nathan's heart raced as anxiety washed over him. The frantic look in the employee's eyes sent chills down his spine. He understood that whatever had happened, it wasn't just another minor setback, it was urgent and potentially devastating. The atmosphere in the conference room shifted instantly from poised deliberation to panic. What do you mean something happened? Nathan demanded, forcing his voice to remain steady. The roof collapsed. There was a loud bang, and then, people are trapped. The employee's urgency pushed Nathan to his feet. He exchanged a glance with Mark, whose expression shifted from disbelief to alarm. In that moment, they were not just board members but colleagues coming together against a common threat. Is everyone accounted for? Mark asked, rising as well. No. I don't know. Some people were inside when it happened. Nathan felt as if the ground beneath him was crumbling. He had stood before the board with conviction, ready to champion a new era of compassion. Yet now, the urgent reality of human lives hung in the balance. How could he focus on business ideals when people were in danger? Get the emergency services on the line. Nathan instructed, his mind racing through possible scenarios. We need to make sure people are evacuated. Now. In a flurry, the employee nodded and rushed back out of the room, leaving Nathan filled with a mix of dread and determination. He turned to the remaining board members and saw the shock mirrored in their expressions. This isn't just about numbers anymore. We need to prioritize our people. He urged, his voice rising above the chaos. We can't let fear paralyze us, we have to act. Gather a team and head to the warehouse to assess the situation. As the board members scrambled to get into action, Nathan felt the pressure mount on his shoulders. He had come here to speak about change and empathy, but now he had to embody those values in an instant. Rushing to the exit, Nathan took a deep breath, grounding himself. Sarah's smile flashed in his mind, reminding him of why he was fighting so hard. We can do this, he whispered to himself, determination rallying within him. As he stepped into the corridor, the clamor around him faded, replaced by a singular focus. The echo of his heartbeat matched the urgency in the air. The lives of his colleagues depended on quick decisions, on clear leadership. It was more than a corporate issue, it was personal, and Nathan felt the weight of every soul involved. Help is on the way. An emergency responder shouted from the entrance, and Nathan could barely let himself breathe a sigh of relief. There was so much to do still, but knowing that help was coming lit a flicker of hope in his chest. Moving toward the warehouse, Nathan's mind raced with thoughts. How could this happen? Were there measures in place that had failed? He questioned everything he knew about the company's safety protocols and whether they truly put their people first. As they approached the site, chaos reigned. First responders moved with purpose, but Nathan's heart sank as he saw the smoke rising and debris scattered everywhere. He felt powerless amidst the confusion, but he couldn't let fear overtake him. This was a defining moment. A sudden shout for help pierced the air, and Nathan's breath caught in his throat. "Stay back!" a firefighter yelled, pushing through the chaos. "Nobody gets left behind." Nathan shouted instinctively, adrenaline surging through him. He turned to Mark, fear and resolve etched in his features. "We need to organize a search. If people are trapped, we have to do everything we can to find them." He could see the seriousness settle in Mark's gaze. This was more than business now. It was about commitment to one another, a community standing strong in the face of disaster. But even as he rallied his colleagues, Nathan realized a deeper truth. He could talk about compassion and values all day, but this was the moment that would truly test who they were as a company. A voice broke through the din, calling for help again. Nathan's heart raced as he prepared to dive into the fray. They weren't just fighting for business today, they were fighting for lives. As he moved forward, a horrifying thought struck him: would this moment redefine his vision for the future, or would he face a harsh truth about the cost of neglect? With every second that ticked by, Nathan felt the gravity of what was at stake. Would they emerge from this stronger, or would they crumble under the pressure? The call for help echoed again, piercing through his resolve. And Nathan knew this was only the beginning. Nathan plunged into the chaos, the frantic sounds around him fading into a singular mission. He felt a mixture of fear and adrenaline driving him. The calls for help were a desperate reminder that time was running out. Each shout tugged at his heart, pulling him deeper into the rubble. "Over here!" someone yelled, and Nathan rushed toward the sound, his legs pumping with urgency. He could see the first responders forming makeshift barriers, their faces set with grim determination. The smoke hung heavy in the air, mingling with dust and debris, choking the very space they needed to navigate. "Mark, you take that side. We'll flank the area," Nathan directed, his voice steady despite the overwhelming dread clawing at his gut. Mark nodded, his eyes focused and sharp, ready to follow. They had to work as a unit, every second a chance to save a life. As they split up, Nathan pressed on. He steered around fallen beams and jagged metal, each step becoming more treacherous than the last. With every shout he heard, Nathan felt the weight of responsibility crashing down harder. How could they have let this happen? Wasn't safety supposed to be their priority? "Hello!" he called out, hoping that someone would hear him through the chaos. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only by the distant sounds of sirens and the clatter of emergency equipment. Then, he heard it again, a weak voice calling for help. "Help please. I'm here." It was faint, barely audible, but it was enough to deliver a surge of hope. Nathan followed the sound, navigating through the wreckage until he reached a partially buried figure. The sight churned his stomach. A woman, pinned underneath debris, panic etched across her face. "Stay calm. I'm right here. Help is on the way." Nathan reassured her, kneeling by her side. "What's your name?" "Rebecca." "I can't move," she cried, eyes wide with fear. "I'm Nathan. We're going to get you out, I promise." "Just hold on," he said, forcing himself to sound confident. But inside, his heart raced wildly. He could see the sweat streaming down her brow and felt the urgency to act. "Mark!" Nathan shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. Mark rushed over, the lines on his face deepened by the weight of the moment. "Help me lift this," Nathan instructed, nodding to the beam. Together, they pushed, grunting with effort, straining against the weight. Every inch they managed to lift felt like a victory, but the fear of failing hung in the air like a thick fog. Finally, they freed Rebecca's legs. Nathan knelt beside her again. "You're going to be okay, Rebecca. Let us get you out of here." As he worked to pull her free, he sensed the stares of nearby responders, their expressions a mix of respect and resolve. They were part of something bigger now, a band of warriors fighting against the odds. With one final effort, Nathan freed her entirely, lifting her into his arms as he stood up. "I've got you. Let us get you to safety." The relief on Rebecca's face washed over him like cool water, but it was short-lived. A loud crash echoed through the site. The ground shook slightly, and Nathan's gut twisted and fear instinct kicked in as he turned, shielding Rebecca with his body. "Go! Get her clear!" Mark yelled at the other responders, and they rushed in, taking Rebecca from Nathan and carrying her towards safety. Nathan watched, his heart still racing, feeling a part of him being pulled back into the chaotic void. He couldn't lose himself in fear. He had come this far, and he couldn't look back. Not now. More voices. "We need to keep searching." He called out, the terror of failing driving him forward. He ran, pushing deeper into the wreckage, determined to find more of his colleagues. Each step was nerve-wracking, but he steeled himself for the cries he might hear. Would his efforts be enough? Did they even have time? In the distance, another chilling call for help rang out, echoing through the destruction. Nathan's heart pounded even harder. As he approached yet another pile of debris, Nathan couldn't help but wonder, what if they were already too late? Time was running out, and he felt that crushing realization more than ever. Nathan's pulse quickened as he drew closer to the new sound, a voice laced with desperation. It was muffled but clear enough to shatter the silence that had enveloped him. "Help me, please." The words sliced through the chaos around him, urging him onward. Each step felt like a race against time that he skirted around another jagged piece of steel, the sharp edges glinting ominously in the dim light. The air felt thick with dust, making it hard to breathe, but he pushed through. One foot in front of the other. He had to stay focused. "Stay strong. I'm coming." Nathan shouted back, hoping his voice would be a beacon of hope. As he neared the source of the sound, Nathan's heart sank. A man, trapped in the debris, his face was smeared with dirt and sweat. Wide eyes met Nathan's, filled with both fear and determination. "Can you move?" Nathan asked urgently, gauging the extent of the man's injuries. I don't think so. My leg it's pinned," the man gasped, his breath shallow. "Okay, just hold on. We'll get you out." Nathan quickly assessed the situation. The man was stuck under a heavy concrete slab, it wouldn't be easy. "Mark!" Nathan yelled again, knowing that there was no time to waste. Mark appeared at his side almost instantly, breathing heavily but ready for action. "On 3, we lift," Nathan instructed, locking eyes with Mark for a moment. They had to coordinate this perfectly. 1, 2, 3. Nathan grunted, feeling the strain of the weight. It was like lifting a mountain, and for a moment, it felt as if the ground beneath them might shift again. But they forced the slab upwards, inching it away from the trapped man. The man winced, his legs pinned tighter with each movement. "It hurts," he cried out, the anguish piercing Nathan's heart. "Just a little longer. We're almost there." Nathan encouraged, sweat rolling down his forehead. The tremor in his voice betrayed the pressure building inside him. With a final effort, they managed to lift the slab just enough for the man to wriggle free. Nathan dropped to his knees, pulling him from the debris as quickly as he could. When the man was free, Nathan cradled him in his arms momentarily. "Thank you," the man gasped, relief washing over his face. The moment didn't last long. A slow rumble echoed through the wreckage, and the ground trembled beneath them again. "We need to move. This place could cave in." Mark shouted, urgency electrifying his voice. "Can you walk?" Nathan asked the man, who was now laboring to catch his breath. Not really," he admitted, guilt washing over his features. "No time for that," Nathan replied, his eyes narrowing in determination. He leaned down, wrapping the man's arm over his shoulder, supporting him as they made their way through the debris. "Hold on tight," Nathan urged as they staggered forward. The surrounding chaos felt like it was closing in, but every step they took was a step toward safety. They navigated through what felt like a labyrinth of despair. More cries filled the air, beckoning them. Each plea struck a chord deep within Nathan, echoing in his mind like a drumbeat. Time was not on their side. Every time they emerged from a pile of rubble, Nathan hoped to see a glimpse of sunlight shining through the smoke. But instead, shadows loomed, and the destruction felt endless. Further up ahead. Nathan shouted, glancing back at Mark, both of them straining against the weight of more than just the debris. The environment was claustrophobic, filled with a sense of urgency, but they pressed on. In the distance, a bright light cut through the haze, a reminder of life beyond the wreckage. But would they reach it in time? Just then, another voice broke through the chaos, desperate and pleading. "Help! We're trapped. Please!" Nathan froze, heart racing, torn between the hope of salvation and the grim reality of survival. More voices. He called back, determination surging through him. "We can't stop now. We can't leave them behind." As fear gripped his heart, a question lingered on the edge of his mind: would they find a way through the darkness before it was too late? Nathan pushed forward, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he strained against the weight of the injured man beside him. Time was slipping through his fingers, and with every cry that pierced the blanket of dust, urgency turned into raw desperation. The light ahead felt tantalizingly close yet maddeningly out of reach. "Keep moving," Mark shouted, propelling them onward despite the uncertainty. Nathan tightened his grip on the man beside him. He could feel the heat radiating from his body, the way he leaned heavily against him, begging for strength. "Just a bit further," Nathan encouraged, though his own fear threatened to crest over. As they wove in and out of debris, another cry clawed at their resolve. "There are kids in here." The words hit Nathan like a punch to the gut. "Kids." He felt his heart drop. "Kids." Mark echoed, eyes wide. The urgency of the situation had turned tangible, almost like a weight pressing down on Nathan's chest. "How many?" Nathan called out, hoping fervently they weren't too late. "I don't know. Please." The trembling voice was unmistakable fear mixed with a thread of hope. "Stay close," Nathan shouted to the man beside him, who nodded slightly, though the fear never left his eyes. They needed a plan, they needed to be smart. They veered left, the sound of sobbing drawing them closer. The world around them felt surreal, as if they were navigating through a nightmare crafted from fear and chaos. "There." Nathan pointed at a small gap in the rubble. "Can you see them?" The cries grew louder, a melody of panic. "We're here. Help us." Even in pure terror, there was an echo of life, a heartbeat promising they could still help. "Mark, help me push this," Nathan instructed, nodding toward a jagged piece of concrete that blocked the entrance to what looked like a makeshift hiding place. They needed to work together, one force pushing from behind while the other pulled from the front. They grunted, strained muscles, the dust choking them. Nathan's mind raced, thoughts darting between the kids' safety and the worry that the whole place might collapse. But defeat wasn't an option. Nothing mattered more than getting them out. Suddenly, the concrete moved. A slight shift, and Nathan caught sight of little fingers peeking through the debris. "I see them," he shouted, feeling adrenaline surge through him. Kids, can you hear us? Mark called, trying to keep his voice steady. We're going to get you out. The sobbing stopped, replaced by breathless whispers. They were alive, and they needed them as much as Nathan needed to save them. Hang on just a little longer. Nathan grunted with effort, pushing harder. With one final heave, the concrete shifted enough for the sun to spill through the gap, illuminating faces streaked with dirt, wide, innocent eyes filled with fear. Help! A little girl pleaded. Please! Nathan's heart overflowed with desperation mixed with hope. He slipped through the opening, reaching in as far as he could. I'm here. Just grab my hand. He felt tiny hands clutching his fingers, a surge of warmth flooding through him. The little girl's grip was surprisingly strong as his heart raced. Don't let go. He urged, pulling her closer, desperately wishing the world around them would stop crumbling for just a moment. Is everyone in there? Mark called, his voice now thick with urgency. Nathan pulled the little girl into the open. There's more. I can feel them. But then the earth trembled again, sharper this time, as if the world was warning them of what lay ahead. Nathan's pulse quickened. His heart sank and lifted all at once. Could he really save them all? Please! Echoed a deeper voice from within the rubble, urgency rising. Hang tight, we're coming. Nathan reassured them hurriedly, wrestling both with hope and dread. With additional effort, Nathan squeezed through the tight space to reach the rest. The shadows seemed to conspire against them, but he refused to back down. As the cries transported him deeper into the wreckage, he couldn't help but wonder what would it take for them to see the light, and could he find his own way out of this darkness? And as they moved closer to the trapped children, the very foundation beneath them shook again, a harbinger of choices still to come. Would this be the moment of truth or the beginning of despair? Nathan's heart was racing against the backdrop of chaos. With the little girl tightly clinging to him, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within, a reminder that every life counted even in the greatest turmoil. The voices of the other children, though overshadowed by fear, beckoned him closer like a lifeline amidst the storm. Everyone, stay calm. We're going to get you out. Nathan shouted, his voice impossible to ignore now, driven by sheer determination. The shadows around him felt heavy, yet somehow he found strength as another voice came through the rubble, muffled but undeniably clear. Please help us. Mark, we need to hurry. They're scared. Nathan called out with urgency. He could see Mark pushing just beside him, sweat streaking his brow, his expressions conveying both concern and fierce resolve. Every moment counted now, every heartbeat felt like a countdown. As Nathan dove deeper into the wreckage, his body contorting into tight spaces, the cries of the children rang through his mind, wrapping around his heart like a vice. He wanted to assure them they would be free soon, but deep down, shadows of doubt crept in. The foundation quaked unpredictably beneath him, echoing the turmoil in his chest. Then, in a mere second, everything changed. The ground trembled beneath him, sending shockwaves through his bones. Nathan's instincts kicked in. Get back! He yelled at Mark, urgency fueling his voice as a segment of debris shifted dangerously close. Pull them out! Mark shouted, equally aware of the precarious situation. Together, they pushed harder, combining their strength against the shifting rubble. They could not let fear overtake them. They were not just fighting for themselves but for unified hope. Nathan clawed through the space once more, calling out for the kids. Hold on. I see you. Hands reached out, faint against the crushing weight. Feeling their small fingers slip around his, he grasped them with every ounce of strength he had. I want to let you go. With adrenaline surging, Nathan and Mark maneuvered through the narrow opening. He could feel the heat radiating off the kids, their breaths labored and shivering against the backdrop of fear. One at a time. I've got you. He reassured, wrapping an arm around a boy, feeling the desperation pour through him like a torrent. The boy squeezed Nathan's hand tightly, his wide eyes reflecting both terror and trust. Nathan felt tears prick at his eyes as he pulled him free. "You're safe now." He felt the tears clouding his vision, warmth and relief washing over him as they finally emerged from the darkness into the soft glow of daylight outside the rubble, but the chaos around them rose sharply as the reality of the collapsed warehouse struck home. The sirens blared, the first responders flooded in, and suddenly, Nathan felt the weight of responsibility shift from his shoulders to those of the professionals around him. He turned back to the wreckage, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. There were more people trapped inside. "You! Get these kids to safety!" Nathan ordered a nearby officer, motioning with urgency. Only then did he catch sight of the crowd gathering outside, their faces painted with concern. Among them stood Sarah, her own eyes glistening with something unspoken: relief, fear, pride. Their gazes met for a fleeting moment, and Nathan felt an unnamed bond tighten between them, strengthened by shared resolve and the gripping weight of unspoken words. He knew, without question, that they were fighting the same battle, joined in a mission larger than himself. "Let us go!" Nathan hollered, rallying Mark and the others, racing back into the chaos with renewed urgency. They traversed through the rubble, determined to rescue every soul still trapped, claiming light against despair, scrambling towards where the last calls for help echoed. Nathan fought against the fears of the unknown. He envisioned everyone he was fighting for: the workers, the families, but most importantly, Sarah. His heart beat a resolute rhythm. If they both survived this storm, everything could change, not just for them but for the future they could shape together. "Help! Please!" Another voice called, and Nathan's breath caught. He would not abandon hope. Pushing onward, he felt his resolve strengthen with every hand he reached for, every child he pulled from fear, and the promise of something greater simmered in his chest. On 3. Lift. Together, they powered through darkness, hearts unified as they pulled free the last of the trapped workers. Cheers erupted as each individual emerged, greeted with shouts of relief and warmth that conquered the shadows. And in those moments of chaos, hope flickered brightly like a beacon. As they gathered outside, Nathan paused in the frenzy, letting the moment wash over him, the realization that together, with an unyielding commitment, they had begun to transform something broken into something new. And as he caught Sarah's tender gaze across the crowd, he knew they had ignited a change that went beyond numbers and mergers, a powerful shift that would redefine their lives forever. Together, he breathed, surrounded by lives intertwined in hope, and with every embrace, every tear of joy, Nathan felt love bloom amidst the wreckage like a daisy pushing through concrete, a symbol of resilience and the promise that, through it all, they would emerge stronger together. Now, as you take in this emotional finish, I need you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel. You need those well-crafted stories in your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It's the moment to show your support. Comment your reactions, your feelings about this heartfelt conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the inspiration. True fans know the power of standing together, and your support matters.